today I'm back with a brand new Doctor Who related type video. Today I am joined with the wonderful Matt Rohman, who has given us his time to speak to me on this little video here. He's a monster actor for Doctor Who, the Judoon, Cybermen, the Monks, Kassavin from Series 12 and many more. So we're going to be talking to him. I've got a list of my questions and some of your questions from YouTube and Twitter as well to ask him. So yeah, how are you?
I'm doing very, very well, thank you. How about yourself?
I'm all right. We talked about this a few seconds ago. It's a weird time, but, you know, making do. I thought we'd go straight into the first question, of course, with a bit of a bog standard one, bit of a generic one. What is your first memory of Doctor Who? Did you watch it as a child?
Yes. Younger, per se. I can't remember exactly what I watched first, whether it was the Christopher Eccleston series, when that first came out, or I do remember watching one of the Doctor Who movies, but you know, I think I always like watched it, but like, you know, I wasn't like a fan, you know.
Yeah.
So I was quite aware of it.
Looking on your IMDb, your first sort of listed Doctor Who related credit goes to Partners in Time.
Oh yes, sorry.
Long time ago, 2008.
Yes, if you want to be pedantic, that is my first Doctor Who related episode. But I did do, in the Doctor Who universe as a whole, I was in the Sarah Jane Adventures as well.
Oh, which one was? What was that? Which episode was that?
Oh, this I know it's 2008 because I was doing my master's degree, but I honestly can't tell you. I know I did a few days just like as a background extra, just walking across. And I was one of the Slovene, but I never got used. So it's one of those things I don't tell people I did it because no proof, you know.
Oh, that's fair enough. What was it like, sort of getting like in the roles of Doctor Who and obviously Sarah Jane Adventures, and sort of, you know, getting the role, and what was it like actually being part of the show?
When I obviously started with the industry, obviously with filming on Doctor Who, obviously there was a fan base. But since then, like, it's completely, like, exponentially exploded how many fans and like how excitable people are about it. So when I got the jobs at the time, I was just like, all right, cool. You know, because I said it was majority background extra work. So the Partners in Time or Crime, I thought it was Crime, but that was one of those things because that was in the Dragons Center, the cinema down there, and that's where we filmed it. And that was a night shoot, so we were wrapped about 3 a.m. so everyone was like really tired and grumpy. So from that, it's obviously I slowly started getting the monster work, and that's where it really got interesting. Especially to the point where I'm getting credited, which is just ridiculous. Started off as a background extra and then sort of come to this point. Which is also quite funny because if you want to come back to Christopher Eccleston series, I remember watching his first episode with my family, and they're running around in London, and then suddenly he comes out at the flats, which was actually in a place in Carlisle where I used to live in Cardiff. And my sister, there's like a little doctor's surgery there, and my sister was going, "Oh, my car's in the background," because she was in the doctor's that day when they were filming. She's like, "Oh yeah. Oh, my car's in the background. I'm gonna be famous because my car's in Doctor Who." And I'm just like, to this day, I'm just like,
you know, talking about the sort of big monster roles. You went towards Class in 2016. Playing one of the Shadowkin warriors. What was that like?
That was really cool. That's when I first properly met the Millennium FX crew, which I've met again and again of over productions, including Star Wars, and they're just amazing people. I absolutely love them to bits. The Shadowkin armor itself was expertly done. Most people thought majority of it was CGI, and it wasn't. Honestly, it was 99% just pure suits. It was amazing, absolutely phenomenal stuff. And I think that was actually technically my first monster job on camera.
Oh, nice. Yeah. I've sort of wanted to try and go in. Obviously, that was before Series 10, where everything sort of started happening. In what ways were the sort of production of Class, what ways were that different to sort of Doctor Who? Or was it different?
It's really hard to say. The majority of it was night shoots, again, in the Brecon Beacons in an old disused quarry. So it was again very dark, very stormy, very wet. Had to put on a brave face underneath the mask as much as we could. But no, I don't think the production is changed at all. It's just always been like a great atmosphere. Everyone's there professional to do a job, do it well, and go home. But there's never an element of there's no prima donnas at all. Everyone's there and everyone's having fun while they're doing it, which is rare. Which I find very, very rare.
That's definitely a good sign. I mean, I've over the years you see bits from like Doctor Who Confidential and all that sort of thing. It does look like people are enjoying themselves, as well as it being a very professional type, shoot. And that's always something I've taken away from it. I mean, it's one of those shows I think as well, like Doctor Who, that sort of pushed people towards the media industry and like TV and stuff. I mean, myself, I'm very inspired by what I saw back in the day with Confidential and all that sort of thing, and wanting to push towards that. So yeah, I mean, I can definitely relate with that. Jumping forward to series 10 of Doctor Who, you played the monks, one of the monks, the patients and the Cybermen. Focusing specifically on the Cybermen, what was it like playing a fan favourite and sort of famous monster for the show?
It's a huge honour, and it's something that we'll look back on fondness, but at the time it's bloody awful. It is really a horrible, horrible job. I keep explaining this when I do conventions, because it must be really, really cool, and it's like, no, when you're in it, it is genuinely horrible. Like, for a start, you're in a full body rubber onesie, which is like zipped up to here. You've got about 20 to 30 kilograms of armor, which goes over the bits and pieces. The reason why, like, especially the Cybermen, do you know why like the sort of stamp when they walk the feet? That's mainly because of the costume, because all the boots are size 13 as standard.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And obviously, with the masks as well, like the eye holes are sort of... I don't think you can see on the camera, but I'm pointing down here. So I can see the floor in front of me, and that, everything else is pretty much blind.
Jesus.
So it's not a fun job.
Yeah.
It's one of those things, especially with the guys I work with. They are some of the coolest people you will meet in your life. And it's just kind of got like a camaraderie. Like, we're all in this like awful situation together. Let's make the most of it,
Yeah.
Which I don't think you'll find in any other workplace.
Yeah. Again, talking about the Cybermen, they, obviously touched upon this a little bit. They have a very defining sort of style in terms of walking, moving, acting. Given that there were sort of previous iterations of these Cybermen on screen, what kind of tips were you given in terms of the performance of these characters?
Well, for that particular episode, which is World Enough in Time?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, World Enough in Time with the Dr. Falls, I think.
Yes, that was it. So it's the 2 episodes. So they actually brought us in for a workshop with Ailsa, who is one of the coordinators for the show and has been for quite so many years. And she did the Philharmonic Orchestra tour as well. So basically, we just had to do a workshop, and then we were taught out of costume how to do the stances, how to do postures, all that kind of jazz. So essentially we did workshops beforehand before we got into costume, and then did it for real.
Whenever you see them, they've always got a very definitive style, and everyone seems to be sort of in sync of doing it. It's almost like a very different form of choreography in that sort of sense, I suppose. Like,
yes,
less of a dance,
completely.
I suppose, though. A tad more uncomfortable.
The only thing that combines them all is whenever you watch a Cyberman march, they will always use the left foot first, and that's a subliminal thing, because that's what mainly the British Army, that's how they march. So it's a very subliminal thing that they're all a militaristic style.
I never knew that. I never even noticed that. Yeah. Not a true fan. In the following series, you played the Sniperbots and the Kerblam Men. What was the experience like, and how did the production differ from series 10 to 11? Obviously, with it being a totally different kind of team. Or was it different again?
I don't think it was. The Kerblam Men holds a very special place in my heart, though, because that was, again, going back to the Cybermen, they all have their history. They all have a specific walk, etc., etc., etc. But with the Kerblam Man, it's quite funny, because my agent, she rang me, and she said, Matt, I put you forward for a job, but I haven't checked if you're available. What are you doing on Wednesday? And that's basically how I got the role as the Kerblam Man.
Oh, brilliant.
But it wasn't. But the weird thing about it was I was brought in and I sat down with Jennifer, the director, and she basically gave me the script, which I had to learn. But then she said, right, now you've read it, do you think this creature would move? And that was said amazing for me because I physically got to design how the Kerblam Men, the postman and the teammates moved. So that was a big opportunity for me. And especially when they kind of wanted like a human interface kind of action where like, it's like, given an okay and they had the wave to say goodbye, but you also wanted like a kind of little greeting in between. So I just thought it'd be really cool, just have them perfectly still because they're meant to be efficient, like working robots, but then just have that little head tilt where they do that. And like, it just see Twitter explode when they said, oh my God, the head tilt was so creepy. I was just like, yes, I did a good job.
I totally agree with that. It gave it that sort of, I think it must have been one of the lines where it's like, I think it was with Lee Mac and Mandip Gill, and you've got it's sort of telling them to get back to work, but right at the end of the line, the head just sort of turns like, oh God.
Great conversation, guys.
Yeah, that's the one, yeah.
God, I've forgotten it. It was 3 years ago. I've got the professional.
In obviously recent series 12, the Kassavin, the sort of light monsters from the opening story, a lot of people weren't aware that these were actually sort of big, bright, sort of light costumes.
They were indeed.
What was that kind of experience like? Because obviously I don't think people know too much about that. I know Ray Holman posted like one photo and people were like, wait, that wasn't CGI? What? Wait, what? So what was that kind of like?
To be honest, I was the daily. The main Kassavin was a very talented man called Sam Rush. He was obviously one of the monks as well, but he was also he's more known for being the Mondasian Cyberman Bill. When Bill gets turned into a Cyberman, that's Sam Rush. So I was just a day player, but those costumes were very, very interesting. Because like you said, they were just basically a very tight suit full with LEDs, and then they had padding over it to sort of give it like a Gaussian blur, and then obviously they added light effects in post to give it like the really sort of CGI effect.
Yeah, I found that interesting because I think there's not too much of the whole confidential side of Doctor Who anymore. So I think
which is a shame.
It is a massive shame. When Ray posted those photos, it was like, wait a minute. Oh, wait, okay. That's new. Didn't actually realise that there were people in suits. And it's like, oh, poor actors with the bright lights just, yeah.
Because it was funny as well. It was again another night shoot in the one particular scene where Brad is shooting us with his laser shoes. I think there was only 5 of us there at the time, but there was also it was the same time there was a massive storm.
Oh.
So they said, right, we just like, you're going to appear, so just stand still. And we can't go too far because we're literally wired in. So there's one of the guys from the electrical department a few meters away with a huge rig powering all the lights. So we just needed to stand still, but we're leaning like 45 degrees forward to counteract the wind blowing in our faces. It was pretty bad, but it looked amazing when you watched it back.
Yeah. Oh, I was then impressed on the actual show. When I found out it was actually in suits, I was like, oh, that is quite clever, actually. Yeah. Fugitive of the Judoon, big episodes, lots of sort of reveals and stuff like that. You played a Judoon in that.
I did.
Did you know much about the episode in terms of, for example, Captain Jack returning or Ruth being like an older incarnation of the Doctor? Or was it more incredibly secretive than that?
It was very incredibly secretive. Because obviously there's like spoilers upon spoilers in there. But it was me and Simon Currow who were the main Judoons, along with I forgot his name, who played the captain. It's going to annoy me. So obviously me with the main Judoon troops, and we kind of put 2 and 2 together, and we knew that, but like we weren't going to tell anyone.
Fair enough. I wasn't sure whether, because I think a lot of people were sort of curious and like, because especially stuff like with like Jack returning and all that sort of thing, and the Ruth reveal being towards the end of the episode where the Judoon aren't there, or whether or not you actually knew about that going into it. But yeah, that's
we were there for the scene towards the end because there's there's a few troops when they're having the argument, which obviously she's given the gun and
yeah, that's maybe stupid there. Yeah, not on the
no,
ship.
no, it's fine. No, it's fine.
Talking about the Judoon, different type of monster yet again, and obviously one that had been in the show before. What was it like playing the Judoon?
Amazing. I absolutely loved it. I could see, I could breathe, I could go to the toilet when I wanted. It was like the perfect costume for me.
Yeah.
Because normally, I get one of those three, not all three.
Yeah, that's fair. On the day of filming, sort of Gloucester Cathedral, I think it was, the day before that, it was sort of announced with a publicity shot that the Judoon were going to be back and that they were filming the next day. So there was like a big sort of crowd there watching. What was that sort of experience like? Because I know you've talked about night shoots and all that sort of thing before. It mustn't have been too much of the same. So to have like a daytime shot in the middle of like a town centre with lots of fans taking photos, watching and all, what was that like as sort of experience?
That's happened to me a few times because obviously sometimes when we shoot in this like centre of Cardiff, like doing the night shoots, I think World Enough in Time, there's just obviously fans. They find out. Don't know how they find out, but they find out, and they pop around and they take photos, which is fine. We can't stop them, and we're not allowed to pose for photos. So obviously, if they take photos, they can do what they like. But it was fun. It was like really really great atmosphere. Everyone was really really cool. Obviously, just the energy of people. They're like, "Oh my god, Judoons are back!"
Yeah, absolutely.
It's really really great. I also spoke to quite a few people, and it's just, I don't know, it's just really nice environment.
Yeah, no, I get that. In terms of episodes that you've sort of worked on, do you have any particular sort of favourite that stands out?
Well, again, going back to Kerblam, that's probably one of my all-time favourites, just because I said not only it was my first physically scripted role within the Doctor Who universe, but obviously I got to design the movements for the robots. So that was a big, huge deal for me. I guess there is another one, but I can't talk about it yet. So,
okay. That's fine.
I don't know how to answer this question. I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. No, it's fine. Yeah. Out of various monsters and aliens you've played for the show, which did you enjoy playing the most, and which did you enjoy playing the least?
The most, alongside the Kerblam Man, would have been the beaten up Cybermen who followed. We called him Caesar, which was the Cyber Zealot, but it was the lone Cyberman. Asham?
Ashad, I think. Yeah.
Ashad, thank you. Sorry. So you can tell who's actually paying attention and who's not. Yeah, because they were like obviously the Cybermen, which had worn a few years past, but like I just really loved what they'd done to the costumes, because it's very, very small details, but no one had really noticed how beaten up and damaged they were and war torn. And apparently we had our own backstory for that. It was me and Simon Carew again. Because when Ashad was in stasis, we were there protecting him for millennia.
Oh, right.
Yeah, but that's what we were told. Whether they actually put that in or not one day, who knows? But whatever.
That's fair enough. I can agree with that. I remember, because I'm like the cyber sort of design from like the 2006 isn't my overall favourite, but I think when I saw the sort of the trailer for Ascension of Cybermen and you saw the design, it was all beaten up, I thought, oh, actually, I quite like that. That's different, I thought it was
also as well, the when we became the Cyber Warriors, it's just obviously like Simon Carew, he's actually the main Cyberman now. So basically, whenever they got a new Cyberman or they want to fit someone, they will call him in and he'll do the main adjustments on the what have you. But when he came to me and told us what we do, and it's like, yeah, they got spikes on them, I was just like,
oh yeah, man, I love that. I mean, talk about Cybermen costumes, all that sort of thing. Do you have a sort of favourite in terms of comfort and movement, or are they all about the same?
Oh yeah, completely. Going back to comfort, the Cyber Warriors and the Cyber Masters was the first time that they have given us flies, so we could actually relieve ourselves, which was amazing, because most of the time we'd have, if we needed to go, we'd need to hold in for 12 hours.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. Again, it's like going back to it, like everyone had their own, I can't think of the word sometimes. This is why they don't give me lines. So the Cyber Warriors and Cyber Masters, they were pretty okay to move around in. Although the pieces I had around my midriff were quite so tight. I did actually put on my Instagram story. I'll link to you later because I'm not sure if it's quite PC, but they did basically look like giant phalluses, which had been ingrained into my sides.
Oh man.
So yeah, as long as you, most of them are very, very tight and very, very awkward. But you know, we've had worse. You know.
Yeah, well, that's fair enough. Have there been any particularly difficult scenes to film? And if so, which ones would stick out?
One that sticks out in my mind is one of Claudia Jesse's first days with us on Kerblam. I had to show her into a room, where she pops the bubble wrap. So basically, I had to show her in the room and then walk out. The problem is, it's all the masks have tunnel vision, so you have no peripheral vision. I can only see in front of me, the straight line. And with this particular movement, I can't move my head. I've got to keep it straight. But I have to walk into a room, then on my way out, find the door, close it behind me, and go into pitch black. So that was very, very difficult. I think that took about 13 or 14 takes. And afterwards, I was just really apologetic to everyone. It's like, I'm sorry. During the last episode, me and Simon, as the battered Cybermen, were coming down a corridor just before we started shooting at them, taking off in the pod. Again, narrow vision, and we got these huge cyber shotguns. A few times we both broke them against the walls because actually they're just 3D printed plastic, and so we broke them a few times. We felt quite bad. But again, it's just because we're walking forward and it was such a narrow corridor. If we just had it just the slightest angle too much that way, it just would get caught in a door frame or something and just fall to pieces.
I suppose it's war, it happens, Could you think of a particularly hardest role you've played in Doctor Who or Class or anything like that?
The hardest role? I'm not sure. I think I've had a pretty okay time, if I'm honest. I said that I know I keep repeating about Kerblam, but that was 3 weeks, Monday to Friday, solid learning lines. So that's probably the hardest one I had to do, just because I kind of felt pressure that, because even though my lines were overdubbed later, they didn't know if they were going to do that or not. So they had to physically still record me. So that was quite difficult, trying to keep on top of the lines and remember the movements. Remember to go to the loo. But that was a hard slog. But
so they recorded your lines because they weren't sure whether they were going to dub them or not.
Yeah. So I was told that. Yeah. So when they're physically talking to either the teammates or the postman, it's physically me in the outfit, apart from one or two minor little occasions. So basically Jennifer, the director, she wanted him specifically because what they normally do is have them talking to, say, the monster, and then one of the assistant directors would probably reading off the side of the screen. But she didn't want that. She wanted a proper interaction.
Oh, right.
So it'd be disconcerting, having a conversation here and then someone's voice is over here.
Yeah.
And sometimes people tend to look away.
Yeah. Well, that's fair enough. Yeah.
So it's trying to keep things like that. So basically, I was told that they may use my voice for the Kerblam Man and the Postman, what have you. They might not, and it turns out they didn't. Because I think if they did, they'd have to pay me more.
It's not a big question, so I'll feel free to have a bit of a think about this one. But if you could pick any monster from the 56 years of the show's history to play that you haven't already, what would you pick? Either classic or new, whatever sort of sticks out in terms of a monster.
People will probably be raging in your comment section because I'm actually not that big of a Doctor Who fan. I mean, I've watched I said, I've been watching them
Mm.
since Christopher Eccleston. I did sort of stop towards the Matt Smith era, which is now ironic because I actually body doubled for him a few times in that series, and then which then got me new jobs because I've been body doubling for him on his new film. But to be honest, it's one of those things where when I get the call for secrecy reasons, they don't tell me what I'm doing. So I only know what I'm doing when I arrive there. So when I get there, it's like, right, Cybermen, great. And I kind of like that. I like the challenge of not knowing what I'm going to do, walking in blinds, and then figuring it as I go.
That's interesting. Yeah, no, that's fine. And I don't think anyone will be too, upset about that in the comments. I mean, it's a job, and you enjoy doing it, and that's. And I think a lot of comments that I've looked through, and we're going to get onto sort of comments from YouTube and Twitter and all that sort of thing now in terms of questions. I saw a few, and myself included, who are basically like, "Thank you for being these monsters, being part of like the show." And
shucks, stop it.
But I mean, no. But even on on Twitter, when you posted the thing about the credit in the most recent series, and you phrased yourself about being a sort of, you said you're sort of a small cog in the big Doctor Who machine. But every cog does its job, and it's because of that the show works. So on behalf of a lot of people, thank you for that.
Well, thank you.
So right, let's have a look at some questions from Twitter and YouTube from people. When you're in the role of monsters and such, do you get given info about the character, as in their story, in their sort of background, or do you just get told nothing or very little? What's the extent of that?
Again, it depends. Obviously, Cybermen, they have a history which we're all very well aware of, so we know what we're doing, generally speaking. Most of the time when we come up with, say, Simon comes up with new movements, it's generally costume related, etc., etc., etc. But yeah, it's very situational, so I don't think there's a certain question I can answer that with. One example is with the Shadowkin, we weren't given any background, and we were just told, right, stand there. And that's when me, Richard Highgate, and a few of the other guys, we came up with the stance, and that's how you see them on the show. But yeah, it's just little things like that, really. Yeah. If they most of the time we're not really told the backstory, because mainly it's a need to know basis, if I'm honest.
Yeah. That's fair enough, I suppose. Yeah.
The only time we were told the backstory is when we were the original Sniperbots. And then we came back a few weeks later because they come at the Battle of Aonghas.
Yeah,
I know what you
mean. I don't think anyone does. It's all right.
That episode where we get shot in the back of the head by Mark Addy, we were like, but why have we got cloaks now? And it's just like, oh yeah, because it's been 3,000 years and you've been upgraded over 3,000 years. I'm like, oh, okay. You got cloaks now.
Do you have any sort of favourite moments on set? Any particular little highlights or quirks or something?
There's a few very, very personal moments which I thoroughly adore. Pretty much all of Kerblam working with Jodie, Bradley, Tosin, they're just such lovely people. And considering this was before, obviously, it aired, so obviously this was Jodie's first series, and I genuinely fell in love with her because she is just such an adorable personality. And what you see on camera as Doctor Who is what you see in real life. She's not an actor. She is genuinely the Doctor. That is how she is all the time.
Yeah.
And going back to Doctor Who fans, obviously Peter Capaldi is a notorious Doctor Who fan. I think we can all agree on that. When you're on set, especially as SA or an extra, as they're called, it's a kind of an unspoken rule that you don't go up to the actors, you don't speak to them, because they're thinking the lines. Everyone's there to do a job. You need to be professional. But Peter, every day, he would come in and go up to every single person in the room and shake their hands and say, "Hi, my name's Peter. Hi, my name's Peter." And that's the first time I probably met him was in what's the episode with the emoji bots? Smile?
Smile, yeah.
Smile, yes. So I was one of Ralph Little's gun runners in that, and that's the first time I met him. And then the next time I saw him after that was when we did the monk stuff. And obviously we had this one particular scene. We all had our hoods off this point. So he's coming around, everyone in the room. Oh, hi, my name's Peter. Come, it's me. Oh, hi, Matt. Nice to see you again. And I was just like, yeah, exactly. For a guy who has to learn multiple lines on a daily basis and then remember this ugly mug, that was quite heartwarming.
That's lovely. I think a few people want to sort of, in terms of like inspiration and all that sort of thing, how do you get into the world of sort of monster acting for Doctor Who, Class, all that sort of thing? A few people have asked this, and I don't know whether that's something you could specifically answer, or whether it's just more like extra work, acting work in general.
Yeah, I feel quite bad because I've done a few conventions, and people have come up to me and said, "Oh, so how did you become an actor?" And I'm just like, honestly, I fell into this industry. I was in university. I had long hair down to my buttocks, and my mate's sister came up to us and said, "Hey, they're desperate for extras for Life on Mars. Do you want to do it?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." So we drove to Manchester, did a day's work on Life on Mars. I thought, and I was assistant manager of a petrol station at the time, and to get the money I did for working on that compared to what I was making at the petrol station, I was like, "Oh, I need to do some more of this." And it basically escalated out of control from there.
Yeah, well, that's fair enough then.
But if you specifically want to do monster work, that is quite a very specialized role. I would just recommend Googling any sort of extras or background agencies near you, just to get your experience or your foot in the door, see if you like it. And even if you're just on set, you're going to learn so much, even like about decorum, what the hours are like, etc. You do learn quite a lot. The only thing I would recommend is if an agency asks you to pay upfront to join, do not do that. That is a con. They will always take an admin fee out of your first job, and that's it.
Oh wow, okay, that's definitely some good advice then. Yeah. Okay, so in terms of who you've worked with, do you have a particular favorite Doctor that you've perhaps sort of acted alongside on screen? In a scene or anything like that?
Well,
it's difficult.
I've already
to pick
mentioned.
Favorites, I know.
Yeah. Well, that's the weird thing, because I have acted alongside Matt Smith as well, but not as the Doctor, as basically his body double. So that's also a little bit weird. And obviously, I've said my story about Peter and Jodie.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say. It's really really difficult to say.
I know, that's totally fair enough. I understand that. Yeah.
But they're all brilliant, especially Jo. She was so lovely, Jo Martin.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say again, it's a shame about the whole confidential thing, because that particular episode I would have loved to have seen behind the scenes stuff of, especially with Jo Martin, because I don't know if she's done many interviews regarding sort of Doctor Who or whatever, So I mean, personally, something I like to see, and I know a lot of fans would as well, because I think a lot of fans very quickly attached to her as the Doctor.
See, I would have liked to watch it without knowing what was going to happen.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I totally, because I try and on YouTube and all that sort of thing as well. I try to talk about what's going on in filming, what do we know about the series, what can we talk about, what can we theorize about, and to have something just take us so off guard, that, and obviously Captain Jack and the Master, it was like, well,
yeah. Again, that's the downside to filming, is like we can't watch it seriously because we know what's going to happen next, and when like a big monster comes on screen, it's like, oh, it's Sam.
Yeah,
they're your mates at the end of the day.
Someone's asked, would you ever like to play a Dalek? And I'm aware that's a totally different kind of, I don't know if it's a totally different type of thing, but yeah.
Well, no comment.
Okay, that's fine. We'll move on from that. I think one of the last questions, have you ever been able to take any bits of costume or bits of monster home as pieces of memorabilia from the show?
No. That is all put under lock and key. Actually, I can show you one thing. At the end of Kerblam, there was only, I think there was about 10 of us, and they did what they call crowd replication of us opening the boxes and then bursting the bubble wrap.
Yeah.
And so they had lots of boxes left over. So I do actually have one of the Kerblam boxes.
Oh, brilliant.
which I do take to conventions, because obviously there's so many cosplayers, and I get, I put some bubble wrap inside and let them take photos with it.
That's brilliant.
So that's one of the original Kerblam boxes, but that's it, and that's only because they literally had thousands.
Yeah, that's fair enough then. Yeah, I didn't think.
But in terms of
that's surprising though.
No, but in terms of costume, no. That's all goes back into storage because they may need it for another episode. Because I would love just like a Cyberman helmet or one of the Kerblam helmets. So again, when I do conventions, just to show people what it's like and to let them try it on to see how awful a time I have in it. So it must be cool to be a monster. Put this on and I should prove you wrong.
Yeah. That is that for the questions. I've got a little note at the end here. If there's anything that you've got coming up that you want to talk about or advertise or anything like that, if there's anything you want to mention.
Nothing really. My life's quite boring. I do stream on Twitch. That is about it. I said that is my job in between jobs. When I'm not filming, I'm streaming on Twitch, and because there's no filming right now, I'm doing quite a lot of that. I do get quite a lot of Whovians in the chat, and I'm happy to talk about anything which doesn't release spoilers. I will have you know.
Of course, yes.
That is pretty much my life. I'm happy to talk to whomever about whatever.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I very much appreciate it, and it's been a bit of a long recording. I actually wasn't expecting it to be that long, but I do appreciate it. Thank you. It's been great, and so that is that.